Explorer 1, Explorer 1, come in. David, do you read me?
Negative, mission. Must be some kind of
Stand by, David. I'm adjusting the anti-proton feed now. That should clear things up. Rachel, would you mind engaging the isotropic defragmenter?
Oh, sure thing. Done.
Are you reading me now, Mission Control?
Loud and clear, David. Looks like O2 scrubbers are operating normally. You're good to remove your helmet.
Copy that, Control.
All right, all systems are a go. I'm going to engage the main engines and take our new teacher support vessel out for a spin. There's a nebula up ahead that looks pretty intriguing. I think I'll check it out.
Sounds good, David. Keep us posted. Wow, I can't believe that David is finally taking the Explorer out on its maiden voyage. It seems like it was only yesterday that this incredible starship was just a blueprint.
Absolutely. You know what else is exciting? Feedback strategies for motivating students.
Oh wow, those are so useful for evaluating just where your students are in their learning, and then helping to guide them toward the end goal of content mastery. Are they very complicated to implement into your classroom?
Not at all. In fact, I can show you a few ways that you can... What's happening?
It's Explorer 1. Something's wrong. David, come in, David. What's your status?
Mission Control, the ship has passed through a spatial anomaly. All of my navigation systems are down. Repeat, navigation is down. I don't know where I am or where I'm going.
We have to get David back safely.
He doesn't know his current location or his current heading. He's going to have to rely on feedback from us to get back home.
Feedback, huh? You thinking what I'm thinking?
Here we go again. Welcome to Launch Your Classroom. I'm Rachel Durant. 30 years ago, a high-profile form of technology made its way into cars, boats, and commercial airplanes. The Global Positioning System, or GPS, was considered state-of-the-art because it could pinpoint your location in the world to an accuracy of meters. As useful as a GPS could be, though, it was only effective in showing where you were at a specific point in time. It could not tell you where you had been, where you were headed, or what to do if you got lost. Over time, GPS technology was incorporated into maps and other tools that provided users with an actual path to a destination and instructions for getting there. Guidance along a path is essential for everyone, and it is a key source of motivation for your students. And while numerical grades, like a GPS, are valuable, they only indicate where each student is in the present moment. How can you help a student move forward to reach their goals? Just as we added maps to the existing GPS system, you can provide students with written and spoken guidance that gives context to a numerical score. These types of meaningful feedback provide students with the information they need to improve and the action steps that motivate them to move toward their destination. So, let's explore one way you can provide motivating feedback to your students.
Many class assignments require feedback that is more descriptive than a simple right or wrong, such as research papers and creative writing projects. A single point rubric focuses on giving students feedback specific to mastery of a goal. This kind of rubric is a great way to provide short comments identifying a student's progress and growth. Depending on the assignment, you should determine what and how many goals are included to evaluate your students' work. Show students the rubric before you begin, so that they understand the assignment expectations. Provide a description of what mastery of the goals looks like. This description should be in grade-level appropriate language that is accessible and clear to students. If a student has met the goal, fill in the evidence column with examples of how they accomplished the objective. If a student has not met the goal, provide precise feedback as to what needs to be changed in the Areas to Grow section. This feedback should guide students toward making corrections without giving them exact answers. If a student has exceeded the goal, provide feedback and examples in the Areas that Glow section. These are parts of the assignment where students showed true expertise within the objective. Earlier this week, I assigned a research paper to my class based on this prompt. Now we're going to use my comments on the rubric for their revisions. When students receive their assignments and rubric, they can then make corrections based on the specific teacher feedback. Encourage students to celebrate where they excel. And remind them that everyone is always learning and improving all the time. Providing this kind of feedback with examples creates a story of how the student has improved over time and shows their development in each of the goals on the rubric. Rubrics for growth take little preparation and are a clear and efficient way for teachers to track student progress and improvement. This method allows for both students and educators to focus on feedback rather than points or grades. By doing this, teachers are showing their students that they are focused on their learning and are committed to their growth and success.
Keeping your students motivated in the classroom can sometimes feel like an uphill battle. Teachers have a lot on their plate, and staying on top of grades while still providing meaningful feedback can be tricky. But what we sometimes forget is that the feedback we give our students on their assignments can also provide motivation to improve. Focusing your energy into providing quality feedback rather than just a grade can go a long way. At first, it may seem like assigning quantitative grades such as numerical scores or letter grades is a great way to efficiently provide feedback. However, when teachers only respond to assignments with quantitative grades, their students miss out on valuable opportunities to grow and engage in their learning. This can even create an environment where students begin to fear failure. Receiving an A or an F on an assignment tells students little other than good or bad. Qualitative feedback tells your students much more. Let's say that a student has written a lab report that lacks a structured hypothesis statement, but their list of steps is clear and descriptive. When a teacher responds with specific feedback, praising the report's organization while pointing out the missing hypothesis statement, that student is motivated to work on their areas of need while focusing less on areas they have already mastered. Specific feedback gives students actionable steps they can take to improve, rather than only a point grade that provides no clear direction for growth. Most of us struggle with comparing ourselves to others, and students are no different. Consider how students often compare themselves to their peers when it comes to grades. How many students got A's? Did a lot of students get the same score? These types of discussions can actually be harmful to young students and result in lowered self-esteem and confidence. When teachers shift towards a qualitative feedback model, it allows space for students to share what they are working on without comparison. Providing clear feedback on assignments can motivate a classroom community to share their knowledge, which is a more realistic model to what many professionals do on a daily basis. Incorporating feedback is an essential part of building relationships with students. Unlike traditional grades, qualitative feedback allows students to more accurately assess their strengths and areas of need. Including qualitative feedback on assignments is a great way to motivate your students to continue the learning process from one assignment to the next.
This is everything David has on board the Explorer 1. We've got to figure out how he can use this stuff to navigate home.
We'll keep that idea as a backup. In the meantime, we have access to all the data that David's flight computer recorded before he hit the spatial anomaly.
Right!
We can use everything we've collected to determine his current position. Knowing where he is now will help us to determine which way he needs to go.
Of course! David, this is Mission Control. Are you there, David?
I read you, Control. Any updates?
We're going to use your nav data to work out a course for you.
That's great news, because I don't think my spaceship knows which way to go.
Okay, based on the data we have, David entered the nebula here, which, given the time and speed, would put him roughly here, right next to a gas giant. He could use the gravity well to turn around.
Just like a slingshot. David, adjust your heading to 21, 100, minus 75.
Copy that. All right, here we go.
Learning is a process, not a final destination. An important way teachers coach students through the learning process is to give individual feedback on their work. But what does this really mean? Simply writing good job or needs work is not specific enough to encourage improvement. Here are some things to consider when deciding what makes feedback productive. Since the goal of feedback is to help students learn and improve, the first step is to look at the learning goal. As you look over a student's assignment, determine what they have achieved that approaches that goal. Letting students know what they are doing well is an important part of constructive feedback. For example, if you are critiquing a student's essay and they have a strong introductory paragraph, tell them exactly that. Not only does this maintain student engagement and rapport, it also lets a student know what part of the task they have mastered so they can focus their efforts on parts that need improvement. Next, think about the areas of the learning goal that the student still needs to improve upon, and determine 1 or 2 actionable steps that would move the student closer to mastery. Consider the previous example of the essay. Let the student know specifically what they need to do to improve their work and be prepared to scaffold if needed. If a student needs to use transitions between paragraphs, scaffolding might take the form of a list of transitional phrases for students to choose from as they write their essays. How can one teacher provide feedback to all their students while still preserving instructional time? Writing feedback on sticky notes works well and provides a written record. A quicker option is to circulate during guided practice and provide spoken feedback, but this method lacks the accountability of written notes. Consider student conferences as an efficient way to discuss strengths and areas for improvement with individual students. By conducting a few each day during the independent practice section of your lesson, you can provide timely feedback to all your students by the end of the school week. Conference notes record what was discussed and provide accountability. Whatever format you choose, constructive feedback is an essential part of teaching and learning and reminds your students that learning is a continuous process.
In a perfect world, each lesson would resonate the same with every student. However, we know that's not the case. Each student learns differently, and while you can't tailor every lesson to them individually, you can help them understand their own learning processes. Practicing metacognition, or thinking about thinking, helps students get the most out of their education. Individual student conferences provide an environment where the teacher and student can reflect on areas of growth. Scheduling these conferences also gives the teacher an opportunity to reteach on the spot. First, set classroom behavior expectations. You can instruct your students to work independently and hold questions until conferences conclude to avoid interruptions. Next, decide on a private space to meet that will allow you to monitor the whole class, such as the corner of the classroom. Last, you may also choose to play soft music so your conferences are less distracting to the other students. Taking these steps creates a safe environment where your students can ask for help without peer influence or feeling self-conscious. Now, you're ready to begin. Ask each student to bring a project or assignment for discussion time. You may ask guiding questions to get the conversation started, but remember not to do all the talking, as that can feel more like a lecture than an exchange. The goal is for the student to lead the discussion, which builds their self-awareness and confidence while allowing you a glimpse of their understanding.
Here's my diagram of the different layers of the Earth, Miss Heather.
Take notes on a student conferencing chart and use the discussion as a formative assessment, indicating areas for you to reteach, remediate, or clarify.
As you can see, I've color-coded each layer.
Oh, I see. Once a student has finished discussing their work, take a moment for compliment time. Briefly highlighting something they did well increases rapport and engagement while continuing to aid the student in developing self-awareness. I love that you've distinguished every layer with a different color. The next step is to include instruction time. This gives teachers a chance for immediate and personalized reteaching or extension. The conference setting is more appropriate for targeted, individualized feedback than during whole class instruction. I noticed that you had the mantle labeled as one layer. There's actually two layers, the upper and lower mantle.
Wow, I must have missed that, Miss Heather.
You may find it helpful to model the skill or provide a sample for the student to refer back to later. Finally, make room for accountability time. Give the student an actionable step to take before the next conference. This could be additional work on the project, a set of extra problems to complete, or a verbal challenge that addresses the area that was retaught or clarified. These will help the student develop responsibility and increase their own learning. Before our next conference, I would like for you to separate the mantle into two layers and label them. You can use this vocabulary diagram to help you. Make note on your student conferencing chart and follow up when it's due. Individual student conferences are a valuable tool for improving metacognition in your students. When combined with other methods of feedback, scheduling individual student conferences provides a safe environment for students to discuss and ask questions about their work. Then they will build confidence, self-awareness, and rapport and take agency in their own learning.
Your students are unique, and no two are motivated in the exact same ways. However, one thing is certain, your encouragement and tips for improvement can help every one of your students grow. Give your students specific, targeted feedback about where they are already showing mastery and where they can grow. This guidance, whether in a rubric, one-on-one conference, or even an informal chat, shows your students that their education means so much more to you than a simple numerical score on an assessment. That's the kind of support that inspires students to improve. So, use these strategies to guide them along the path to their future potential. This month on Launch Your Classroom, we'll continue to explore how meaningful feedback motivates student learning and success. We will share a strategy for revision with student growth in mind. Then, we'll sit down with an expert educator to discuss questions teachers have about providing useful, timely feedback. We will explore the role U.S. teachers play in keeping students motivated. At the end of the month, we'll tune into a talent show where expert teachers showcase their best practices for giving student feedback. So, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get our upcoming content. And check out launchyourclassroom.com for all your professional development needs. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Launch Your Classroom.
Come in, Mission Control. Johnny, Rachel, do you read me?
We read you, David. You should be on course now for the LYC space station. The data helped us get him back on track, but I've just seen the latest readings from his fuel cells. They were severely drained when he encountered the anomaly.
Meaning?
Even with all the general feedback we've given him, he may not have enough power left to make it back to the station.
So you're saying that he needs individual feedback for this specific situation? Aha! David, it's Rachel. My scanners indicate a subspace wormhole just ahead. Change your course to intercept.
A wormhole? Are you sure?
Yes. Given where you are in your learning, I mean voyage, this is the best way to get you home.
Copy that, Mission Control. Preparing to enter the wormhole.
Entering now.
Come in, Explorer 1. David. David.
David, reading you loud and clear. I'm approaching the LYC space station now. We did it! I'm home.
David, it's so great to hear your voice.
We'll meet you on the docking ring. Wow, that was amazing.
That was the power of targeted feedback. Come on, let's go welcome David back home.
I'll stop on the way for snacks.